Big news coming in ahead of his visit to the United States of America. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given an interview to the Wall Street Journal and has hailed ties with the United States of America in that interview. Prime Minister Modi has said, and I quote him here in the interview, India-US ties are deeper than ever. We deserve a rightful place on the world stage. India deserves wider role globally as well. I'm going to first get in a quick word from Paulami Saha for the latest on that. Also joining us is our managing editor, Gaurav Sawant. Paulami, first over to you. So at this point, it's very interesting that when Prime Minister Modi says to the Wall Street Journal, we deserve a rightful place on the world stage. Tell us about other key highlights.
Absolutely. That is one of the big important points, in fact, that the Prime Minister seems to have made in that interview, that exclusive interview that he gave to the Wall Street Journal before his before embarking upon this very historic state visit to the United States. He, in fact, said that, there has to be an evaluation of the current membership of the Council, and the world should be asked if it wants India to be there. So clearly, the Prime Minister there, stating very clearly that there has to be a proper evaluation, and the world should be asked, which in fact recognizes India's role. India is part of so many multilateral forums already, and these and some very important ones at that. For instance, the Quad, for instance, which is just a four-nation security dialogue, which is happening as far as the Indo-Pacific region and security is concerned. So clearly, should India be part of the UN Security Council or not? The world should be asked that question, whether they want to see India at that table or not. So that is the big point that he seems to have made. Also, when speaking on the context of Russia and Ukraine, he's made it very clear that, our top priority is peace. Everyone seems to say that we're neutral. We're not neutral. We're on the side of peace, is what the Prime Minister says. He says all countries should respect international law and sovereignty of countries, and disputes should be resolved with diplomacy and dialogue, not war. So this is, of course, in the context of Russia and Ukraine as well. These are some of the big highlights, but as far as the UN Security Council is concerned, that is one of the top points that he's made. And also in terms of India's relations with China, he's categorically stated for normal bilateral ties with China, peace and tranquility in the border areas is essential.
All right, Paulami, thank you very much for now. Gaurav Sawant also continues to be with us. Gaurav, I think it's a very interesting point that are mentioned in this interview. India deserves a wider role globally. We deserve a rightful place. India-US ties are deeper than ever. I see an asserting India here, isn't it?
This truly is. India is the world's fifth largest economy, on our way to becoming the world's third largest economy, one of the biggest democracies in the world, the most vibrant democracy in the world. And the Prime Minister is actually giving India's world view. This is extremely critical. The fact that it comes at this time, you'd recall the Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort had said, "Yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai." And this is India asserting this is the India moment. India's moment is here. The world realizes it. Does India realize it in some aspects? The Prime Minister realizes it. He's taking this dream forward. Apart from being a powerful economy, powerful democracy, a strong country that's actually standing up to China. Again, in this interview, the Prime Minister very categorically mentions that India's relationship with China depends on peace and tranquility at the borders. You'd initially talked about how China is jittery. China would be jittery because when the two most powerful democracies of the world come together to checkmate China, it's a major message that's being sent out. Remember what China has been up to in the past several years, whether it's through its debt trap diplomacy or through wolf warrior diplomacy or the Belt and Road Initiative. China is actually trying to take the world down. China does not believe in a multipolar world. China believes, at least in Asia, China will be the only power. And ultimately, China's aim is that the Middle Kingdom is most powerful, or China is most powerful, and even the US should be subservient to China. India and
Yes.
China, India and the United States together are going to checkmate China so that a multipolar world remains, and that
Do you
is
think, Gaurav,
India's worldview.
that the
When
United
it
States
comes
of
to the
America
United
is
Nations,
looking
of course
toward
it
India
requires-
now as
the
well?
United Nations requires
Yes.
a reform. UN requires reform, and UN reforms are extremely important at this stage.
That's a very crucial point that you're mentioning, and even here there is going to be an event at the United Nations as well. There are different soft powers that India is using to its advantage. But you know, that's what I was asking. Why do you think the world is looking at India now? And even in United States of America, should we take them at face value? Should India be slightly cautious? Because we've seen how USA has even tried to ally with Pakistan at one point. How should India's strategy be today with regard to the new changing global world order?
So India is not a timid nation. India does not play second fiddle to any nation. India protects India's interests
Yes.
first. In fact, that is the problem that the world has with India. For the past, ever since the Russia-Ukraine conflict started in February, last year, the pressure has been on India to toe the American line or to toe the NATO line. And they dangled carrots about NATO plus for India. India did not, bite that bait. India is strong enough to know what's in India's national interest, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, they've articulated it multiple times. We will protect our national interest first. And the world should not grudge us that. So whether it's buying the cheap Russian oil, it serves Indian interest first. Incidentally, that actually serves Europe and America's interest, because the cheap Russian oil that we buy, we then clean that oil up, and then they take that oil from us. So, India's actually looking after the world economy at this stage. And the world realizes that. India is the democracy that's checkmating China. Whether it was in Doklam in 2017 or in Galwan in 2020, and that standoff continues. China's in a spot right now. I mean, China's got 50,000 troops amassed at eastern Ladakh, and now, of course, all across that 3,500 kilometer long line of action control. Can China move forward? Well, there will be a checkmate. If China wants to take on the United States, it cannot grapple with India at the LAC. India also dominates certain heights that are not in public domain just as yet. So the fact remains, India is checkmating China